This is part 4 of a series covering my team's progression in the new server Vitera. This video will cover from level 168 to 229 on the server, starting the week on Asura Palace, with a new druid interested on becoming our 4th. For the past week, I had been posting on advertising channel and Discord that we needed a druid for our time slot. The previous guy we got this way showed up one day and then never again, and this one unfortunately couldn't communicate in English, but it didn't matter much at this point, because the first hunt went pretty well, getting over 2.1kk raw XP on Asura Palace. At this point, we should have probably been hunting on geysers or busters, but for one, we were behind in levels in the server race, so there were already quite a lot of people hunting those spawns, and me and my team would rather play it at times we set for ourselves, and getting in line for a spawn doesn't work for us, unless it's a small wait time. Anyhow, for this day, we hunted for 2 hours and got to level 172. Next day, I went back to try the sea serpents because I finally had some imbuements, and XP went up a bit to the 1.1kk range. A few hours later, my team logged in and we continued to hunt on Palace with the same druid for yesterday, doing 2 hours and finishing at 179. Then the next day was a repeat of that, a bit of solo hunting in the early afternoon to continue working on my sea serpent task and bestiary, and then later in the day team hunt in Asura Palace to finish the day at 184. Then the Orc Over Fest bonus started, which if you don't know, it's an event that happens twice a year, and after it ends, the next weekend will make demon type creatures give a 50% experience increase, and as you can guess, for us that were already hunting Asuras, it was especially good. Our raw experience went up to 3.3kk, and in 2 hours of hunting Palace, I went from 184 to 192. But to be expected, the next day people started to contest for Asura Palace, so we got creative instead, and my first idea was to hunt in POI, between the Dark Torturers and Juggernaut Seals. And it went okay, definitely a bit sketchy on the Jug Seal, but thanks to the event, we were still doing over 2kk raw. However, after a bit of hunting, we were told Asura Palace was free, so we instantly headed there, ending the day at almost 199. Then for the last day of the event, I started by dueling Barcalas with the RP, since we didn't get to finish Bestiary, but I don't recommend doing this by any means, we just wanted charms. Anyways, after completing the Bestiary, we waited for the team to log in, and since Asuras were taken, my next bright idea was to try the Blood Halls of Inquisition, which went much better than POI, with great profit and up to 2.5kk raw XP. Of course, big part was because of the event, but regardless, it did cost me a death. Turns out the druid couldn't heal while throwing 3 walls. Then after getting blessings and coming back, we hunted for a bit over 1 hour, getting to level 203. The next day we started by doing access to the Bor Cathedral with plans of hunting -1 or -2, since it wasn't possible to get bursters or even reapers, and after a bit of questing, we got ourselves access to it, then started right away with hunting Bor Cathedral -1, since -3 was taken and we were likely too low level anyways. Also, in order to be somewhat useful, I got a friend to do Death Imbuement tier 3 on my weapon. I recommend to do that or get an Earth Imbuement if you plan on hunting Cathedral. That is of course if you don't have an ice or fire weapon. Our experience in here was of 2.3kk, so we stayed here until finishing the day at 206, and then came back the next one, and with some improvements the experience was closer to 2.5kk, and with that we had found a pretty good spot with good experience that was always available, and with no better option we stayed here for the next 2 days, going from 206 to 215. After that we started working on within the task quest for access to Tibia, during which I ended up dying once due to the ED turning shot on and not realizing. Then we went back to Cathedral -1, getting around 4 levels a day with 1 boost. It wasn't until after 5 days of hunting -1 and getting to 220 that we moved on spawns. 2 -2, because that day boosters were boosted and -2 has a decent amount. The experience we were making was of 2.8kk raw, but with the boosted bonus it was around 3.5kk raw, which was pretty good. So we spent the day there up to level 224, and then back to -1 the day after, where we had gotten the experience up to 2.9kk, finishing at level 229, where I will be stopping this video, because after this we finally move on to a different spawn, for real this time. So I will start the next part with that. But by the way, you might have noticed that for once, we had the same druid the entire time. He turned out to be reliable and consistent. He did have his flaws, but for us it was good enough that he showed up every day to hunt, so we were pretty happy. That got us good gains throughout the last 2 weeks, where I went from level 168 to 229, and for the most part I only boosted once a day, with perhaps 2 or 3 fortifying coin boosts. If you like the content, consider subscribing, and if you want to help support the channel further, consider donating Tibia coins to Gudii donation. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Tuna Hero, Night Star, and Tortoise Slasher, and I hope to see you on the next part of this series.